You love butter. But Canadian supermarket butter has become a minefield. We are counting down the 7 butter brands that Canadians should avoid if you care about spreadability, flavor, and real kitchen results. From big box bargains to brands you have trusted for years, some of these blocks may be sabotaging your toast, your cookies, and your confidence in every recipe. Which supermarket butter delivers the worst value and why? Let's kick off the countdown with number 7. Kirkland Signature butter from Costco looks like a bulk bargain, but here is the catch. Shoppers keep running into blocks that behave completely differently from week to week. One batch is creamy and perfect for cookies. The next is dense and stubborn, and the same recipe can flop or turn out dry. On baking forums, Costco members compare notes. Some get butter that spreads nicely, while others end up with toast that tears and with cookies that stay thick and do not flatten out. In a side-by-side kitchen test, 2 Kirkland lots baked cookies with noticeably different diameters, enough to ruin a batch if you are after consistent results. That is the headache with buying big. You cannot predict what you will get. For home bakers who care about reliability, this kind of inconsistency is a deal breaker. Kirkland lands at number 7 because it is not always bad, but when it is off, it can throw your whole kitchen routine out the window. Walmart's Great Value butter looks like a win for your wallet, but here's the real cost. Every time you try to spread it on fresh toast, you get a greasy pool instead of a smooth melt. The flavor barely registers, and the texture feels cheap, like something is missing. Here is the part that annoys me. Shoppers who tried the toast test know the drill. Instead of melting evenly, this butter sits on the surface, leaving oily spots and a bland aftertaste. Try frying an egg or making a grilled cheese, and you will notice the fat splits in the pan, making everything feel a bit off. The savings are just a few cents per stick, but the downgrade in daily eating pleasure is obvious. Critics and home cooks say Great Value is fine for bulk baking, when you need quantity over quality, but for anything else, it does not deliver. That is why it lands at number 6. Not the worst, but a steady letdown in kitchens across Canada. Metro's store brand butter has earned its spot at number 5 for one simple reason. It acts like a brick in a real Canadian kitchen. Pull a block from the fridge and set a timer. 18 minutes later, it's still fighting the knife. Most butters start to spread thin at the 10 or 12 minute mark, but Metro's just sits there, stubborn and cold, tearing bread and refusing to cooperate. Home cooks have clocked this over and over, especially in winter when kitchen temperatures hover around 18 degrees. The spread test isn't just a gimmick, it's a frustration check. When you're rushing breakfast or prepping for baking, nobody wants to wait out a timer just to avoid mangled toast. Here is the part that annoys me. The story does not get better once you taste it. Metro's butter covers bread with a neutral, almost bland layer. It does the job, but it's missing that fresh, creamy dairy punch you expect. Critics and shoppers say it's not offensive, just forgettable. That is why Metro lands here. Persistent hardness and a flat flavor that drains the joy from everyday cooking. Compliments butter from Sobeys looks like a budget win, but here is where the pain starts. Even after sitting out on the counter, this stuff fights back. Try the classic toast test. Knife meets resistance, and suddenly your bread is in shreds. It is not just being cold from the fridge. This butter stays brick hard at room temperature, turning a simple breakfast into a struggle. Home cooks have tried every trick, leaving it out overnight, slicing it thin, even microwaving, but the result is the same. Butter that will not cooperate. Move to the frying pan. The frustration only grows. Instead of melting into a smooth golden pool, Compliments butter breaks down into uneven chunks, leaving clumps that refuse to blend. The low price tag comes at the cost of daily usability, with a texture that feels more industrial than inviting. For anyone who wants butter that actually spreads, Compliments lands at number 4 for a reason. It is the brand that turns toast into a battlefield and makes pan cooking a guessing game. No-name butter from Loblaws is the classic yellow box that promises savings, but it's a false economy for anyone who bakes. Here's the part that annoys me. This butter skips the proper cream aging that gives better brands their soft, airy fat structure. Throw it into a basic creaming test. 100 grams of butter with 100 grams of sugar, beaten for 2 minutes, and you'll notice the difference right away. Premium butter fluffs up, almost doubling in volume, making light, tender cookies. No name barely lifts. The mixture stays dense and sticky, refusing to trap air. That is not just a technical detail. It is the reason your cookies turn out squat and heavy instead of crisp and chewy. Baking side by side, the proof lands on the tray. Cookies made with no name spread less, stay thick, and bake up with a dull, flat flavor. Critics and home cooks point to the same problem. You might save $1 at checkout, but you are buying batch after batch of disappointment. Weak flavor, poor rise, and a texture that simply cannot compare. For anyone who cares about reliable baking, No Name turns a simple recipe into a gamble. That is why it climbs to number 3, because in the kitchen, the cheapest choice often costs the most in results. Natrel positions itself as a premium choice, but here is where the factory approach shows its cracks. Try making buttercream or creaming sugar for cookies, and you will notice the resistance right away. Even at room temperature, Natrel's texture stays firm and stubborn, refusing to blend smoothly. Home bakers describe fighting with the mixer, scraping down the bowl again and again, only to end up with a lumpy, uneven mixture. It is not just a minor annoyance. This kind of stiffness means your icing can turn gritty, and your cakes might never reach that light, airy crumb you expect. Move over to sauces and the problems multiply. A bechamel or hollandaise that should come together in seconds can suddenly split, leaving pools of fat floating on top. Critics point to the way Natrel's fat structure resists forming a stable emulsion. Instead of a glossy finish, you are left with a greasy mess that refuses to hold. For anyone who cooks more than toast, this is a deal breaker. At a price that suggests reliability, Natrel's factory-made firmness undermines everything from baking to sauce making. That is why it lands at number 2, because it does not just make spreading tough, it actively ruins the dishes you are trying to get right. Lactantia lands at number 1 for a reason that drives home cooks up the wall. Pull a block straight from the fridge and set it on the counter. 15 minutes later, it is still fighting the knife, refusing to soften, and tearing through toast like cardboard. Shoppers who pay premium prices expect better, but the complaints keep piling up. Rock-hard texture, bland taste, and a stubborn refusal to blend or melt when you need it most. Try making laminated pastry, and you will see the problem. Instead of rolling out smooth, the butter cracks and shatters, tearing delicate layers and ruining any hope of flaky croissants. Critics point to the science. Higher palmitic acid in the fat structure, possibly from industrial feed or rushed processing, locks the fat into big rigid crystals. That is the Buttergate headache. Even with a recognizable name and a higher price tag, you are getting a product that behaves like a block of ice instead of real creamy butter. Home cooks vent online about wasted mornings and ruined bakes. One shopper summed it up: "If I wanted to fight my butter, I would just buy margarine." The science backs up their frustration. Bigger crystals mean more hardness, less spread, and a flat one-note flavor. For a brand that is supposed to deliver premium performance, Lactantia fails the most basic tests. It will not spread, will not bake right, and will not give you the satisfaction you paid for. That is why it tops the list as the worst value in Canadian butter aisles. Across all 7 brands, one pattern stands out. Industrial shortcuts create butter that's harder, blander, and less reliable, yet still priced like the real thing. In Canada today, paying more does not guarantee quality. Your kitchen deserves better than a brick. Share your butter frustrations below and subscribe for more grocery deep dives.